let's talk about what your biggest challenge is right now in your practice. Maybe your biggest challenge is that you don't have enough patients. Maybe you are so exhausted because there's too much to do. There's just not enough time in the day. Maybe you need somebody or somebodies to help you, but you've had a hard time finding them, or you're afraid, you've never hired somebody before. Maybe you don't even know how to go about doing it. Maybe you still feel like imposter syndrome because you're not really sure that you're confident in what you're doing. Not only did I have the worst practice financially, but I also had the world's biggest imposter syndrome because originally I was a pediatrician. Who is coming to a pediatrician for menopause care? Like, that was just so creepy. And it took a long time to get over all of those things. But so you may be feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome at this point. Maybe you just don't have enough money coming in the door. And maybe there's something else that I'm not thinking of. Anybody have any other really hard challenges that you're working with? Building a team, finding the right people, yeah, it's hard. So I would argue that this one thing, if you can increase your revenue, it solves the other problems. Because if you need more team members, you can be super generous. Like, if you pay them a lot of money, you can get the best team members and they'll be so happy and they'll stay. But without the revenue, that's hard, right? Because then you're paying them everything and you take home nothing. But here's the problem. You probably can't all read it from back there, but what it says is, why is it so hard to raise your prices? And the answer is, because you're a horrible person and you should feel bad. Does anybody feel like that? Yeah. This is the real problem, is we feel bad asking people to pay us. Like, how crappy is it to have just listened to somebody's whole story and they've got the vaginal dryness and the night sweats and they can't remember things and they can't lose weight, they've got all the symptoms, and you know that you can help them. And you tell them, I've got this, I see this all the time, I know that I can help transform your life, but I'm only gonna do it if you pay me this much money. Like, that's so not how medical providers are trained. It makes us feel really bad, and we have to be able to get past that in order to have a successful practice. Because if you have imposter syndrome, if you're afraid of talking to people about money, if you feel like you must keep your prices way down here in order for people to come or for them to feel like they're getting value from you, if you can't get past those things, you are not going to be successful in your practice. So if you need more revenue, you can see more people. Busy, 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 no bathroom breaks, no time for lunch, charting till 11 o'clock at night, ask me how I know. You can sell more stuff, that's great. You can bring in extra lines of service or products that you carry, but then you gotta sell them, so it's more work. Or you could just charge more for your whatever it is you're offering. That is the fastest way to bump up your revenue and honestly, to change your life. So there's different business models, right? There's the insurance model, which, I don't know, pretty much everybody I think that I've spoken to who's taking insurance doesn't love taking insurance, but it's what you know. It could be fee for service, which is just where they pay for appointments. That's easy for the practitioners to understand. It's easier for the patients to understand, but it is a treadmill to nowhere. The more patients you see, well, first of all, the only way to raise the revenue really is to see more patients, right? And in the very beginning, when you only have a few patients, okay, fine, you're just happy money is coming in. But once you get busy, it is exhausting. And then they all want you to refill their hormone prescription by phone or, sending you portal messages. They don't want to come in and pay for an appointment. And you end up doing all this work that you're not getting paid for, and you start to feel resentful, and you don't always have the best relationship with all of the patients because they keep making you feel guilty because you keep wanting them to pay for their appointments. Or you could have memberships and programs, which is what I really want to talk about today, because what I see in the most profitable, successful practices where they have revenue and peace of mind, like a social life, like that work-life balance, is by doing programs and memberships. So I'm going to tell you exactly how I put together programs, and I show other people how to put together programs. So the first thing is, you need a name for your program. Doesn't matter what the name is, it just needs a name. You can call it a supersonic program, doesn't matter. You need a proprietary system, something that sets you apart from everybody else. This is how you do it. you have to make sure they don't think they're coming in for a prescription, because if what you're selling is a prescription, that has very low perceived value. But if you have this process by which you help people transform lives, and it's called the supersonic process, whatever you're going to call it, it makes a big difference. So you need to have your proprietary system where you help people. And then if you are going to have this model where you're going to be doing programs, patients have to be pre-educated, because you can't just take somebody off the street who maybe, I don't know, they read the new menopause book by Mary Claire Haver, and all of a sudden they're into hormones. But all they know is that they want a hormone prescription. They just want you to do the natural form of the hormones instead of the synthetic form of the hormones. So patients need to be pre-educated to understand better all the things that you do, how your approach is different, it's more comprehensive, you spend time with your patients, blah, 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 so that it makes more sense. It helps them to understand why you're asking them to pay a higher price and packaging it into a program. And then having that conversation where you're talking to them about your program and how awesome it is and how you help people, et cetera, you have to make really sure that you have the right words, because you're selling the transformation. You are not selling the widgets. You are not selling 6 appointments, these 3 supplements, I don't know, acupuncture treatments or IV treatments, or like whatever the things are that you're going to include in your program. That's not what they're buying. They're buying sleeping through the night, losing, their belly fats, having a clear mind, being productive. That's what you're selling. Don't sell the widgets. And it is being able to enroll people into these programs. It's a learned skill. I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb and say your education was probably the same as mine, but I know that in between cardiology and nephrology, there was no business, sales, marketing training. It's this big abyss for us. But we're all smart. You wouldn't be here if you weren't a smart practitioner or health coach, whatever you are. So we can learn how to do this, but you have to know that it is something to be learned in order to learn it. Okay, so the question is, how are we really doing the pre-education? So for us, we have videos on YouTube, we have videos on our website, we send out emails with videos. So if whenever somebody kind of gets into our ecosystem, they can see us and hear what we have to say, so that we can help them understand how we're different and better. So somebody finds us somehow in the world, they're interested in learning more about working with us. So for us, I recommend the next step is a free discovery call, because if you are a cash practice, no matter what your business model is, you want them to have some gist of what they're getting into before they come in, and you waste all your time and energy face to face in front of them, and then you tell them how much your program is, and then they're a little bit freaked out and unhappy, and they leave, and you've just wasted all that time and energy. So on a discovery call, which doesn't have to be you, it could be a member of your team, but they have to be a good salesperson. But on a free discovery call, they learn a little bit more about it. You let them know, in our case we're talking about here, that you do these programs and you have different programs, and at least give them the range so there's a gist of what their investment is going to be. And then if they get past the discovery call, then you have them come in for a paid appointment, which is where you're taking a history and physical, you're educating them about your proprietary process that you have named, and then they're so much more warmed up. So by the end of that conversation, they have no other option but to move forward with you, because you've got the answer to the problems that they're suffering with. So at the wellness consultation, which is the paid appointment, that's where you're going to enroll them into your programs, depending on what they need. We will send them out to get lab work done. When they come in, we have a big appointment called a review of findings, where we go over their lab results and really get them started on their care. We're checking in with them with these little check-ins monthly. We call them interim appointments. In my practice, it's the health coaches that do it. It's not the providers. And then every 3 months, depending on how long their program is, we have appointments where we repeat the labs and we sit down together as a team, and we call those progress report appointments. So that's sort of the structure. And then at the last appointment, the last progress report at the end of their program, is when we sign them up for memberships. And The reason that I think memberships are a much better model than fee-for-service is because it changes the dynamics. In fee-for-service, every time they come in, they have to pay you. So they are disincentivized to come in, and they would way rather you just call in their prescription refill on the phone. A membership flips it around backwards. So now they're paying on a regular basis, and if they need something, you're super happy to pick up the phone and look after them. It saves you a whole appointment, right? If you can do it in 5 minutes on the phone instead of having to spend 30 minutes sitting in front of them, that's better for you. So you are happy to take care of them because you're just grateful they're paying you the monthly membership. Whereas you get resentful about all the stuff, all the work that you're doing in between appointments that you're not being paid for when it's fee for service. But even if we're going to have a membership model, starting with a program is a really great way because, first of all, when you start working with someone, most of the stuff that happens up front in the first little bit, right? The education, and we're going over all the tests and all that kind of stuff. So in the beginning, if you have them do a program, and then at the end of the program you sign them into a membership, the revenue is much higher, and it very quickly moves the needle to profitability. And for that might mean more money in your pocket. It might mean being able to hire more team members so that you can spend more time with your children, whatever that means for you. I think it's good to have a couple of options because that way it's easier for them to, they're making a choice. So if you have a higher program for people that need a lot of help and a lower program for people who are just on maintenance, that works really well. And then we can have different programs. So I just made up some names. So there's a hormone program, a metabolic program where you're going to look at their blood sugar parameters and things like that. You could have a functional medicine program. You can come up with sexier names than these. But a functional medicine program where you're looking at gut health and all sorts of other things if you're trained to do functional medicine. And you can have a program where you connect the weight loss and the hormones together in one program. So you can design all kinds of different programs. And that paid consultation, charge them something so they show up and they have some skin in the game. It weeds out the people that are just sort of doctor shoppers and they're not really serious. But what you charge doesn't really matter. You can, let's just say you're going to charge $250. When they do sign up for a program, you can just roll that into their program. Or not. $250 to come and sit down and talk to you and learn what things are likely going wrong and what's possible. And then they can sign up for a program and it's on top of the $250. So here's how we figure out what you should charge for your programs. So I'm going to walk through exactly how we put these programs together, but then we're going to talk about the real problem. So first of all, you want to know what's included in your program. Are you going to include some labs? Are you going to include supplements? Like whatever it is, you need to know the hard costs of whatever is going to go in your program. So for the sake of our example today, I guess it's on the next slide, but I think I picked $400 or something like that as the hard costs. Whatever the hard costs are, the wholesale prices that you have to pay to buy the labs, the supplements, whatever's included, that's the cost of goods sold, and you want to multiply. This is kindergarten math, people. Like if there's any like people here who have MBAs and stuff like that, just put your fingers in your ears right now. But here's how I do it, because I don't have an MBA. I went to the School of Hard Knocks. Is whatever the hard costs are, multiply by 4, and that's what your program should be. This means that 75% of what they pay you, you get to keep, and only 25% of what they paid you has to go towards covering all that stuff that they're including. So this is an example of a program, and I'll read it out because I don't know, I can't see from up there, but maybe you guys can see better than me. But if you're a beginner, you've just gone through BHRT Academy, you're writing your first hormone prescriptions, like you're not experienced, you don't do functional medicine, you're just getting started. This is an example of a program that you could use. So we've got a 3-month hormone program, and it's going to include their care, so whatever they need from you over that period of time. I've got $300 worth of supplements that we're going to include. So wholesale, depending on what your margin is, might be about $150. We're going to include some labs. In my office, we let them get their blood work done under their insurance, and the specialty labs are included, but you can include all of the blood work so that you don't have to fight with insurance. So what I have here is a saliva test that's $95 wholesale, plus $150 worth of supplements at wholesale. And so that comes to a grand total of $245 in hard costs. Don't double check the math, I don't know, I might not be right, but just go with me on this. So if we multiply that number by 4, that's $980. So if you only charged $980 for your program, 75% of that would be to pay you, and 25% would be to pay for the stuff. I think you should charge a lot more than that, but just for the sake of discussion. Here's an example of what a metabolic program could look like. It's basically the same thing, except that you're just going to do more labs, and you're going to probably need more supplements to deal with what you found on the labs, and you'll be able to dive deeper into the lifestyle changes that they really, really need, because most of the time when people have metabolic issues, they don't have the best lifestyle habits, which is why they have the metabolic issues for the most part. So it's going to include your care. If you have a health coach, you can include the health coach. I've got on here as an example $250 of supplements wholesale and $500 worth of labs. So we're going to do blood work at the beginning, we're going to do blood work at the end, so 2 rounds of that is going to be $500. So $500 plus $250, so we've got a $750 cost of goods. If we do our kindergarten math and multiply it by 4, that comes to $3,000, which means that that would be a good price point for a program like this. If you're just starting, you're going to use lower price points. If you're really confident in what you're doing and you've got lots of clinical experience, charge more. We charge $4,000, $7,000, $10,000, and $15,000 for our programs. Amy and Ina have $25,000 programs that they have sold. So it really is possible. And you have to remember, you're not selling the widgets. You're not selling 3 appointments, 4 B12 shots, and some labs. You are selling the transformation. And I want you to really think about, I don't know how much money we all paid to be here on the cruise today, how much money you pay for your medical education and functional medicine education. And I'm not even counting the original original training you did way back in the day. That's really what's important. The patients are paying for you to know what to do for them. And the number one secret for success is your mindset. Because if you're afraid to talk to people about money, if your imposter syndrome is holding you back, if you don't find ways to get past those, you will not be successful. So here's the real secret, is we as practitioners, if you are going to have a cash practice, have to learn how to talk to your patients about money. We're not very good at it. We sure don't like it. It's a skill that nobody taught us, but you can learn, and it's really important. So I've got my top 10 tips for talking to people about money. And the first one is that we always have to be putting our patients' needs, goals, wants above what would be most profitable for us. You have to be authentic, and you have to be able to feel like what you're telling them is really in their best interest. Because if they feel like you're just trying to sell them something for your own profit, that's just going to poison the doctor-patient relationship. So you have to really have their best interests at heart. We have to avoid the hard sale. You don't want to sound like a used car salesman. They will run for the hills if they start feeling that way. We want you to be truthful and authentic. If you can't help them, just tell them. Somebody who was in one of my mentorship groups turned somebody away because she said, I haven't treated this before. I don't feel confident that I can help you, but let me refer you to somebody else. And so the patient, who never came to her as a patient, wrote her a 5-star review about how honest she was and how much she appreciated her help in finding the right practitioner who could help her. And you have to not take it personally when people don't sign up for your program, because not everybody is going to sign up for a program. I've been telling the story. I was in London last month and I went into a Chanel store and I looked at this t-shirt and it was so soft and lovely and it was $3,000. And there's no way I am ever spending $3,000 on a t-shirt. I like TJ Maxx. So there are some people who will not ever come and do your program with you, and that's okay, they're not for you. You have to feel comfortable in the conversation, because if your eye is twitching and you're like so nervous and you feel so terrible when you're doing it, they feel that. And they might not understand what it is about the whole circumstance that doesn't quite feel safe or feel right, but they will be much less likely to sign on to work for you because it's something that just feels off. And we make most of our buying decisions from our emotions. You have to pre-educate your patients, which is sort of what we talked about before. You can't take them off the street and try to sell them a high-ticket program. And you have to make sure that they want it before you tell them how much it is. So on the discovery call, I'm saying give them a range. But as you're going through it, you want to keep checking in with them. What do you think? Does this sound like what you're looking for? And if they're sort of, or they start throwing excuses and you're not able to really get past their excuses, don't even get to how much it is. If they're not all in, don't waste your time. Because then they just say, oh, it's too expensive. If you do have finance options, let them know. If you break up the payments or if you've got like no interest financing with Care Credit or Cherry or one of those companies, that sometimes can make it easier for them to make a decision. It is super helpful if their significant other is there with them. And if they don't have a significant other, even if they bring their sister, their mother, whatever, if they have a support person to help them make a decision, it makes such a big difference. Because, honestly, if the wife is there and the husband is sitting beside her and you've just finished explaining all about how all these hormones are messing her up and making her not feel good and all of this kind of stuff, and here's how you can help with this program that you're recommending, what's the husband going to say? Like, he's in a tight spot, right? If he says, no, we're not spending that kind of money on you, then he's a jerk, right? So it's one thing if they truly can't afford it, but generally the partner who is the one that's not feeling good sort of turns to the other one, and the other one 99% of the time is going to say, dear, we have to just do whatever we need to do to get you better. And then the last one is focusing on your why really helps. So when you're sitting there and you feel bad that you're charging your patients and you're worried that you're asking for too much money and et cetera, because we all go through those thoughts, you have to remember why you're doing it in the first place, which is to help transform lives. So when your offer solves the problem, the price is no longer the issue. So don't sell the widgets. Don't buy a laser. Other people who work with me hear me say that all the time. I just kind of had to throw it in as a joke. But don't buy a laser. Unless you're in aesthetics practice, then you can buy a laser. And then I heard this piece of advice recently, and I think this is so true. Don't listen to the people who are close to you. Listen to the people who are close to your goals. Because sometimes as we become more, we learn more, we gain more self-confidence, people are looking to us as experts. Sometimes, that definitely changes who you are on the inside, and sometimes the people who are closest to you feel a little bit threatened because you're not necessarily the exact same person that you were a few years ago. Plus, some of the people in your inner circle don't share your dream. So that's what I got for you. I hope it was helpful, and I'll be here if you have